Alright, so as I was saying, the order in which the created things are described in chapter 2 is different from the order they are described in chapter 1, but the uh, order in which something is described is not necessarily the order in which something occurs in time. So we've got the chronological order again in chapter 1. Chapter 2 just says that stuff happened at some time. So when you take chapter 2 and try to impose a chronological timescale on it, similar to what is actually there in the text in chapter 1, when you try to impose that on chapter 2, you're reading into the text what is not there. You're twisting the Bible to say what you want it to say. So if you are a skeptic of Christianity and the Bible, then you want to make sure that you're not twisting the Bible to make it say what you want it to say, to make it easier to criticize. And now I commit the straw man fallacy. You wouldn't want us to, as Christians, to take what you say and twist it to make you sound like you're contradicting yourself when you're really not. So there are many cases in the Bible that people have taken, many passages, comparing one with another, and they will say, see, here's a contradiction, so the Bible is not infallible, the Bible is not inerrant. But if you look at these cases, we looked at one particular case, namely, Genesis 1 and 2, but in many, many cases, this apparent contradiction is only apparent once you actually see what the text itself is saying and not reading into the text what's not there. You see that there's no contradiction. Another example from the same passage that we read, people will say that the Bible can have been written by God because it refers to the moon as a star. The two great lights, the sun to rule the day, the moon to rule the night. It refers to the moon as though it were a star, and certainly God would have known that the moon is not its own source of light. It reflects the light from the sun. So there's a scientific error, but that is not reading the Bible. That would be a shallow interpretation of the Bible, because the book of Genesis was written in the Hebrew language, and if you look up the Hebrew word for light in that passage, the word means a body which is its own source of light, or a body which reflects the light of another. So by referring to the moon as a light, the Hebrew grammar, or the Hebrew word rather, does not necessitate that is taken to mean that the moon is the source of its own light. So there's no contradiction there with the Bible and with science. So when you're interpreting the Bible, when you're studying it, when you're reading it, when you're trying to understand what it's saying, you have to make sure that you're reading it in context, that you're reading it, that you're not reading things into it because of the translation into English, or because of you have to make sure that you're reading it carefully and understanding it carefully, and that you're not reading into it what is not there. And this gets into the whole issue of hermeneutics, which is the science of interpretation, normally of interpretation of written works, and usually of the Bible, but it could be the interpretation of anything. So the interpretation of the Bible, which is something that I've been talking about. Excuse me. In my videos that I'm about to do this series on hermeneutics, and I haven't actually posted it yet, but I do hope to start posting that soon. And that is something that you may want to watch if you're interested in these sorts of discussions. So, uh, again, it may or may not be that Genesis is um, scientifically accurate. It may or may not be that it's historically accurate. It may or may not be that it was borrowed from, Mesopotamia, from Mesopotamian mythology. Those are important questions which need to be addressed. But in these three videos, this is the third of the three. In these three videos, all I'm saying is that the apparent contradiction is that in chapter 2, the order of creation is different from that of chapter 1, but that's only when you try to impose this time scale, this order on Genesis 2 when you're reading into the text instead of reading out of the text. So in other words, the text really doesn't say in chapter 2 that things were created in a different order than what the text itself says was the order in Genesis chapter 1. So chapter 1 of Genesis, chapter 2 of Genesis, they do not contradict. Now you know why, and as I said, you can check that out for yourself in your own Bible or online or what have you. So thank you for watching this. If you haven't seen the book of Eli yet, go out and watch it. It is related to the Bible. There's one part where Eli, or Denzel Washington's character, quotes the passage about dust to dust, ashes to ashes, and so on, when he's about to get medieval on some heinies and take their lives from them. So that'd be an illustration of dust to dust. The body will decay once it dies and return to the dust. But that's neither here nor there. It was a good movie. Go see it. Read the Bible. And be watching for that hermeneutics series. Shalom.